Eddie, we've had big fights before with Matchroom, massive fights. Aside from like an AJ fight, because they're just stadiums, aren't they? Is this as big as like Bellew Hay?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, this could have done a couple of stadiums. Yeah. We wanted to do it in the O2 because we're in October, but also something special about the O2. This fight, it's been so difficult for me over the last month to try and keep my mouth shut because it's been there, it's been on, it's been off, it's been on, it's been off. And with the Eubanks, it's always difficult. Yeah. And you have to understand the dynamic between our family and senior and like, I mean, this fight is so big across so many generations, right? You know, my granddad watched this fight. Yeah. My dad promoted this fight. Yeah. I watched both of these fights. So you've got my age group, the generation above that, now the younger generations that know the young men who are fighting on October the 8th. You know, for me personally, I grew up with this rivalry. Yeah. You know, in 1990, when I was 11 years old, this was my dad's biggest moment. In fact, that first fight is still probably the biggest moment of his life. Yeah. When Chris Eubank stopped Nigel Benn to win the world middleweight title. 3 years later, I remember it so clearly at the age of 14, walking around Old Trafford in a sort of hazy, foggy night. 45,000 people, 15 million people on terrestrial TV watched the rematch in a controversial draw. Yeah. And as a kid, I would go around Chris Eubank's house and he gave me, I remember, a leather jacket. And then a few months later, Nigel Benn gave me one of his training jackets and I would wear both. These are two legends. These are two icons.
Can't do that. It's like West Ham and Chelsea.
No, but
you can't do that.
You know, it's funny how things change. You know, for our family, you know, my dad was best man at Chris Eubank's wedding. You know, we were all so close. Now I'm Team Benn. Yeah. Right. But I cannot believe this fight is happening. And you can talk about AJ fights. As far as I'm concerned, this may end up being the biggest fight we've ever done. I think the numbers, I mean, it's just, we've seen from the pre-sale that the websites have been crashing all morning. Like, the demand for this fight is off the scale. You know, the narrative, of course, of the history, the legacy, the weight, you know, everything that's being debated. I cannot believe this fight is happening.
No one can. Did it surprise you? Like, obviously, you've done so many big fights. But when you kind of pressed the announcement button, did it surprise you, the reaction? It surprised me a little bit because I thought people, you know, they know about it now, so it might not get the same reaction.
Not really. I mean, what surprised me is the fight happening. Yeah. You know, I sat with Conor, Benn and Tony Sims in the office, and it wasn't, we never even sat down to make this fight. I just balled it up.
Oh, so you started all this?
No, but it was like, we were just talking freely. We were talking about Thurman. We were talking about positioning for a world title shot at 147. And I think the name just came up, and Conor Benn went, I'll have that every day of the week. And it's like, but, you know, obviously the weight is, I fancy my chances at 160. I said, look, we're not, and Tony was adamant about this weight. You know, there was a number, and that's the number. You know, it has to be made at. And, you know, I reached out to Callis Allen from Wasserman. He obviously knows the size of these fights. We've done a lot of big fights together, and it was just, it started with, surely not.
Is that where it came from?
Yeah. Listen,
thinking that you guys were crazy for wanting
this fight is happening because of Conor Benn. Conor Benn has chosen to put his world title ambitions at 147 on the side and step up, not just a division and a bit, to take part in an event and a fight that will forever be ingrained in the history of British boxing. Because this fight is too big to ignore or too big to miss. And there'll be people that criticise him, people maybe criticise me.
They will.
Listen, I understand that. Okay. The only disadvantage for Conor Benn in this fight is the weight. The only disadvantage. He's better, he's faster, pound for pound he punches harder, but the disadvantage for Conor Benn is the weight. And that is a big disadvantage in this fight. We believe he can still do it. You can't ignore this fight. It was too big to turn down. Eubank Benn.
You know, it'd be even bigger.
What?
The rematch.
Yeah, listen, the trilogy. We'll do it 7 times. But I'm just happy that we're getting one. Yeah. Because this is a moment we'll never forget.